You know that story everyone hears as a kid, the one you laugh at because it just sounds ridiculous. That legend the old folks tell on the porch, as if it's just meant to scare whoever's listening? Well, someone at some point made those stories up. But nobody ever asks why. And in a small forgotten town, someone decided to find out. This is another one of those accounts that make you look twice into the darkness at the end of the hallway. Welcome to another chapter of real stories, or at least almost real ones. If you have a true scary story, send it to us. Who knows? It might end up here, and you might never sleep again after hearing your own voice echo on our screen. Now pay attention, because the legend of the hollow eyes isn't just a scary story, it's a warning. Out in the countryside, on a road no longer marked on any map, there stood an old wooden bridge, crooked, damp, and forgotten. Everyone born in that town knew it by heart. Don't look at the water after midnight. I never believed in that kind of thing. I grew up hearing my grandmother whisper that phrase, always in a hushed tone, as if someone else might be listening beyond the walls. If you look, she looks back. It was just a story, I said. Until the night someone died right there. Back then, I was 19, working the night shift at a convenience store that closed at midnight. It was a boring job. Cheap coffee, sleepy customers, cars rolling by like ghosts with yellow headlights. That night. The power flickered 3 times. The lights dimmed like someone was breathing inside the wires. Weird. But I didn't think much of it. When I locked the door, a cold wind slid up the street like a tongue. The quickest way home was over the old bridge, the shortcut I always took. The road was narrow. The trees leaned in, like arms waiting to close around me. My footsteps echoed in the quiet. When I reached the bridge, I froze. There was a light over the water, a single lantern, swaying, gently, as if held by someone standing in the darkness. Probably a fisherman, I thought. But it was midnight, and no one had fished that river since. Well, since the story. And then I saw it. The lantern stopped swinging. It went still, pointing straight at me. The beam blinded me for a second. When my eyes adjusted, I realized no one was holding it. It was just floating above the water. My stomach turned. Part of me wanted to run. Another part, stupidly curious, took one step forward. The wood creaked under my feet. That's when I heard it, a faint sound, almost like a sob coming from beneath the bridge. And then, as if something rose from the dark water, 2 empty sockets gleamed in the reflection. They weren't eyes. They were holes, hollow, yet somehow staring right at me. I froze. I only moved when someone shouted from across the road, "Don't look!" Instinctively, I turned my head. When I looked back, the light was gone. The bridge was silent. The river, too calm. I ran. And that night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, the town woke up to the news. A man's body had been found floating under the bridge. And his eyes were completely gone. For the next few days, Hollow Creek went silent in a way that hurt. No one crossed the bridge. No one spoke loudly at night. It was as if the whole town was holding its breath. The man, a truck driver named Ellis Rowe, had been found at dawn. People said he'd stopped his truck because of a headlight issue and went looking for help. But the strange part was the time, 12:03 a.m. And even stranger, no one could explain what had happened to his eyes. The sockets were clean, no blood, no wounds, as if something had sucked the sight out, but left the face untouched. The police did what they always do. They set cones, took photos, filled out reports, and left before sunset. But the townsfolk knew. That wasn't an accident. The thing from the river had woken up. 2 nights later, the power in my house started flickering. Again. Once, twice, 3 times. Just like at the store. The same faint hum in the walls. the same chill crawling up my skin. And then I heard it, the sound of water, soft, distant. But the river was nearly a mile away. Still, I swear it was the sound of the current. And within it, a voice whispering my name. Low, drawn out, like someone speaking with a mouth full of water. Liam! I fell out of bed, heart pounding, opened the window. Cold air cut through me. Nothing outside. Just fields and the dark line of trees on the horizon. But there was a light. A faint glow, flickering among the treetops. The same color as the lantern. The same light that shouldn't be there. I grabbed my coat, pulled on my boots, and went out. Because deep down, I already knew. It was calling me. The road felt longer that night. With every step, the sound of the water grew louder. And then, I heard crying. A human sob. Soft, choked, coming from under the bridge. The lantern was there again, floating, waiting for me. But now there was something else. A shadow trapped inside the light, not a reflection. A form. Human. Twisted. Struggling to rise to the surface. You came. The voice was a woman's. Low, wet, hoarse. My legs started shaking. He looked, and I took his sight. You looked too, Liam. My whole body went cold. How did she know my name? How did she know I had looked? The water began to bubble. The light flickered, and for an instant I saw her face. Or what was left of it. Her skin was pale like wax, and where her eyes should have been, there were two hollow holes, black as the bottom of the river. You're going to help me see again. And before I could run, I felt a cold hand grab my ankle and pull me into the darkness. When I woke up, I was on the riverbank, soaked, shivering. And in the palm of my hand was something that shouldn't have been there. A small lantern, still lit, still dripping water. I spent the rest of the night awake, sitting on the kitchen floor, watching the lantern. It wouldn't go out. Even wet, even cracked, the light stayed steady. A tone between blue and white, cold, almost clinical. And every time I looked at it, I felt something inside me move. Not physically, something deeper. As if a part of me, a part that should have stayed asleep, was beginning to see through it. The next morning, the sheriff knocked on my door. Mr. Calloway. He was a short man, sun-worn skin, tired eyes. Did you see anything? The night Ellis died? I tried to deny it, but he watched me strangely, as if he already knew the answer. You know, this isn't the first time it's happened. 23 years ago, someone else was found the same way. A fisherman, lived right where you do now. What happened to him? The sheriff sighed. They say he started seeing lights on the water and hearing a woman call his name. Not long after that, he disappeared. We only found his boat drifting and scratch marks along the edge, like he tried to hold on. He looked inside my house, and his expression changed. You should throw that away. He was pointing at the lantern, but before I could say anything, the light flickered once. The sheriff went pale and left without another word. In the following days, the sound of water returned. Even when the river was far away, I could hear it. In the pipes, in my dreams, and sometimes in people's voices. It was like the river was inside me. Until one night, I got a message on my phone, an unknown number. No name, no picture. Did you see her too? My fingers went cold. Who is this? The reply came seconds later. I'm the man who saw in your place. The lantern in the corner of the kitchen lit up by itself. That same bluish glow flooded the walls, and for a moment the reflection of water rippled across the ceiling. Then, the sound of breathing. On the other end of the line, I could hear the river, flowing, bubbling, and over it, the same voice that had whispered my name that night. But now she wasn't whispering. She was crying. "Liam, give me back what you took from me." Suddenly, the phone screen flickered and went black. But before it turned off, I saw something reflected. A face. Not mine. His. Ellis Rowe. Soaked. Eyeless. And smiling. The next morning, someone knocked on my door again. It wasn't the sheriff. It was a man in a suit holding a black folder. "I'm from the Department of Conservation. We're conducting a study on the groundwater levels in this area." But there was something wrong with his voice. It sounded muffled, like he was speaking underwater. He looked inside and saw the lantern on the table. "Where did you get that?" "From the river." "Then she chose you." He smiled, a tense, broken smile. "She always chooses someone when she wants to see again." And before I could ask what that meant, he simply turned and walked away. But as he did, I noticed something. His shoes left wet footprints on the dry floor. And in the reflection of the glass, the man had no shadow. That night, the lantern began to glow again. But this time, there was something new. In the center of the light, I could see eyes. Growing. Multiplying. Hundreds of them. All watching me in silence. And then, from within the darkness, a man's voice whispered, "She doesn't just want to see, Liam. She wants you to see for her." That night I couldn't sleep. Not even try. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the river. Not the real one. The one with slow currents and golden reflections from the sunset. But another one. A dead river. Thick. Dark. And in it, something moved. I saw bodies floating slowly, as if they were asleep. And every time one of them turned its face, its gaze followed me, fixed, inhuman. They were the same eyes I now saw reflected on the walls of my house, on the windows, on the microwave glass. They watched me all the time. I tried covering the mirrors, blocking the windows, throwing a sheet over the lantern. But it didn't help. The light pierced through the fabric, soft, almost compassionate, like the touch of a mother insisting on waking her child. On the third night without sleep, I heard the phone ring. The same unknown number. I answered. Silence. Then a low voice, almost a whisper. "Don't look at them. If you look too long, they look back." The sound on the line was like an old recording, static, wet. "Who are you?" I asked. "The last one who tried to warn you." Before I could answer, the oastansene noise of water filled the phone. And with it, a scream. Not of pain, of pure despair. From that night on, I started seeing people on the streets who shouldn't be there. A woman standing still on the corner, her back to me. A man sitting on a park bench at 3 a.m, staring at nothing. And sometimes, when I blinked, I saw them inside my house. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. But there was something else. Those people, or what was left of them, had no expression. They were versions of someone who had once looked at me. Ellis was among them, always wet, always motionless, just watching me, with that smile of someone who knows what comes next. Days later, something started happening to my eyes. The whites turned red, and my pupils seemed to change shape. I began to see reflections where there were no mirrors, puddles, dark windows, the metal of the faucet, and in all of them, the same movement repeated. A face trying to rise from the surface. I began to understand what the man in the suit had meant. She wants to see through me. The woman from the river, the spirit living inside the lantern, she didn't just want my eyes. She wanted my sight. To turn me into what Ellis had been, what the fisherman had been, what would come next. And that's when I realized the lantern was only a conduit, a beacon to guide her to the next person. Every time someone stared for too long, it opened the way. I went to the sheriff, desperate. He looked more tired than before. and when he saw me, his face went pale. "You still have it, don't you?" I didn't answer, but he understood. He took me to a room in the back of the station, an old archive filled with boxes and dust. From one of them, he pulled out an aged photograph, a man holding the same lantern. "That's my father," he said. "They found him in the river in 1982. The body was never officially identified, just the eyes." In the photo, the man's eyes were black, as if someone had painted over them. I went home not knowing what to do. The lantern was no longer in the kitchen, but the light still came from somewhere, from the cracks, the floor, the ceiling. Then I heard a voice, soft, maternal. "You've seen enough, Liam. Now it's time for me to see through you." The pain came right after, thin, sharp, like shards of glass piercing my eyes from the inside. I tried to scream, but no sound came out, only the sound of the river inside me. And before everything went dark, I saw one, last image, my own reflection, smiling, with eyes that weren't mine. When I woke up, the world felt wrong. Everything was too bright, too colorful. But I couldn't see the sun. I couldn't see my own shadow. And when I looked in the mirror, I realized why. The eyes in the reflection blinked a second after I did. The next day, I wasn't the same anymore. My body still moved, but my mind was somewhere between a dream and oblivion. The pain in my eyes had stopped, but something new was growing deep. Within my vision, a constant glow, as if a lantern was lit inside my head. I could still see, but not like before. People looked blurred. Their faces shimmered with a greenish haze, and sometimes, when someone looked directly at me, I saw what lay behind them. Things that shouldn't exist, shapes, shadows with human outlines, mouths moving without making a sound. I looked in the mirror and saw two reflections, one of me and another, watching me. I spent 2 days without leaving the house, without eating, without sleeping. And then, on the third day, the doorbell rang. It was the sheriff. He looked at me with a mix of fear and pity. "You need to come with me, Liam. There's something you need to see." We drove to the old bridge over the river, the same one where Ellis had been found. On the other side, the sheriff pointed towards the water. There was a faint, pulsing light beneath the surface. "She always comes back here," he said, "after she chooses a new bearer." "You knew this from the start, didn't you?" I asked, my voice dry. He nodded. "My father tried to destroy it. Others before him too. But she's made of something that doesn't die." I stepped closer to the edge, and the lantern seemed to recognize me. The light grew stronger, almost calling out. "If you look again, she'll take you completely," the sheriff warned. But I was already kneeling, fingers touching the freezing water. Suddenly, a memory cut through me. It wasn't mine. It was hers. A time when the river was still sacred, when a woman named Maeve was sacrificed to illuminate the path of the dead. Her body was burned, but her eyes were kept, and from them, centuries later, the lantern was born. It wasn't a curse. It was an interrupted ritual, and every person who saw the light continued the cycle. Her voice echoed again, soft like a hymn. "Let me see Liam, just once more, through you." The water began to boil. The sheriff shouted, but it was too late. The light leapt from the river like a living tongue, striking my chest and blinding me completely. And then, silence. I woke up on the bridge floor. The sheriff lay motionless. The lantern, however, was gone. Only a circular mark of ashes remained, and the distant sound of running water. I staggered to the car. In the rearview mirror, I noticed something different. My eyes were completely white, but still, I could see. And what I saw wasn't the normal world. I saw the river everywhere. The walls breathed, the floor rippled like liquid, and shadows passed through people's bodies. She lived in me now. In the following months, I did what I could to warn others. I recorded videos, wrote letters, left messages on obscure internet forums. If you ever find an old lantern in Hollow Creek River, don't light it. But I knew no one would listen, because every time someone read my words, the screen flickered, and for a brief moment, a light shone in the reflection of their eyes. That's when I understood. She never wanted to be destroyed. She only wanted to be seen. On my last day, I sat by the riverbank, where everything began. The sky was grey, and the water looked thick, almost alive. I took the notebook where I had written everything and penned the final words. The light doesn't die. It changes eyes. I let the notebook slip into the water, and when I looked at my reflection, I wasn't there anymore. It was Maeve, smiling. Her eyes, my eyes, pulsed like beacons. And the last thing I felt was a terrible calm. Because deep down, I knew I would be the next to illuminate the path. They say time erases everything, but I learned there are things time doesn't touch. It only watches, as if waiting for the right moment to remind you that you still exist. After what happened at the Parker house, the town tried to move on. The school reopened, children played again, but no one looked toward the woods anymore. The wind that came from there felt different. Then the whispers began. First inside, houses. Then inside heads. People waking up in the middle of the night, swearing they heard someone calling their name, with a hoarse, dragging, almost human voice. One of the girls from school, Emily, started drawing eyes on the bathroom walls. All identical. All empty. They said it was just trauma, until her father woke up to find the same eyes scratched on the living room mirror, drawn with something that looked like dirt or blood. I tried to ignore it, until one night the car radio turned on by itself. The same song that played the night of the last murder, and between the static of the frequency, a voice whispered my name. Slow, clear. You saw. Now they see you. Since then, every reflection in the mirror, the window, the dark screen of my phone seems to watch me back. And sometimes, when the night is too quiet, I swear I can hear. Breathing. Not mine. The police say the case is closed, that there's no evidence. No one. But I know what I saw. And worse, I know what saw me. Because one thing is certain. The legend of the hollow eyes was never meant to scare. It was always a promise. Some say the Hollow Creek River was drained years ago, but those who live nearby still swear they see a strange glow on moonless nights. A lone lantern burning on the still water. And if you look long enough, they say you'll see a face inside. Maybe Liam's. Maybe yours. So if one night you're driving down a rural road and see a flickering light in the distance, don't stop. Curiosity kills fear, but it also replaces it. If you've ever seen something you can't explain, something that looked back at you, tell us in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, light your lantern, like and subscribe to our channel. And remember, not everything that shines shows you the way. Some lights only want to see you back. We'll see you in the next story.